Coming out to our discussion, and in our discussion we'll be talking about composition writing. Now you must know that the subject composition writing is a wide subject that cannot be exhausted in one single gathering such as this one. However, I'll limit myself to a basics that gives us more understanding on how we can teach composition writing. And by definition, composition refers to the act or process of writing or creating written work. In other words, composition focuses so much to do with writing, and of course writing pieces of information with a specified structure. So typically composition refers to the creation of written work such as essay, stories, poems, and articles. Now this involves organizing thoughts and ideas coherently, selecting appropriate language and style. In other words, we are saying composition is the act of writing or producing written work. So teaching composition can be a rewarding experience. And there are several approaches one can take, of course, in teaching composition. Some of the few guidelines that I've picked on are: number one, understanding the basics. Now, before you can teach composition writing, make sure you understand the fundamentals yourself as a teacher. Okay? Now, these fundamentals that I'm talking about would include things such as grammar, sentence structures, paragraphing, indenting, and various types of essays that we can talk about. So as a teacher, understand what are the kind of sentence structures that a learner should use. Is it complex sentences or is it simple sentences? Based on the learners that you are teaching, you can choose what kind of sentence structures you can give. Paragraphing, of course, you know very well that learners must use short paragraphs. And of course, what constitutes a paragraph is the complete idea, not necessarily the length of the paragraph, no. But if the child will have, let's say, 5 ideas, it means that every single idea must carry a paragraph. That's good writing. Children must not be in a habit of writing, composition that have only one paragraph, the entire page, or 2 paragraphs. Let them learn that every single idea should form the paragraph. Number 2, identify your audience. Okay, so teaching pupils require to tailor your approach to their level of understanding and experience. If you want to encourage learners to write compositions, or you want to help them to develop the interest of writing, tailor all compositions based on the experiences that you have had. That way you steer their interest in writing compositions, and it will also give them more understanding, because the more they practice, the more they will be becoming, learning a lot of new things in the process. Number 3, provide examples. Show students or pupils examples of well-written compositions. Analyze what makes these compositions effective, discussing elements like organization, coherence, clarity, and style. As a teacher, get to give learners tangible examples of well-written compositions. At this point, you can even choose to go with handouts, okay, where you give out learners, various types of compositions, or each composition based on the type that you are teaching them, that they may see how compositions are written and begin to discuss the aspects that you'll find in that composition. Number 3, outline the process of writing. So break down the writing processes into manageable steps or segments. Okay? We can talk about pre-writing. Learners must know that before they begin to write, they must do what is referred to as pre-writing. Or they can even plan, put ideas, a few of them, and see how they will structure every single paragraph that they will put forth. They can also go to drafting, teach them also revising. That once they have written this composition, they need to revise and check whether there are certain mistakes that they have made. Editing, they should also edit in terms of grammar, what form of paragraphing have they used. And the last process, of course, is that of now having written the final copy. So teach strategies for brainstorming ideas, outlining and revising drafts. Learners must be taught to brainstorm. Sometimes go as a teacher in class, you ask learners, what are the processes that one can take when cooking sima. And the learners, they know how to cook sima, so they'll begin telling you and you are writing those points. Then arrange those points together with the learners by asking them to tell you which ones should form the introduction, which ones should form the main body, and which one should form the conclusion. In that process, you can even write together with the learners, okay? Having written together, you can also move on to the next step and find another activity where you brainstorm together and leave learners now to decide as to which points should form up, the introduction and the main body and the conclusion in that fashion. Number 4, focus on structure. Teach pupils the basic structure of different types of essays or types of compositions. Let them know from the onset, especially at grade 10 when learners come to grade 10 and also at grade 8. Learners must be taught the types of compositions that there are. Compositions fall in different categories. There are narrative compositions, there are what we would refer to as expository composition, there's persuasive and argumentative. You can also refer them to the final examination types of compositions, because these type of compositions, they appear all the time, and give them to understand how these are asked. So discuss the process of each type of composition and how the structure is, and their compositions accordingly. They must know what forms and what language to use, how these are formed and what should be done. Okay. Number 6, practice writing. So provide plenty of opportunities for learners to practice writing. Assign various writing prompts, exercise and projects that will allow them to apply what they have learned. It's important that learners must be given tasks all the time so that they practice. Language is a skill of behavior that can be learned like any other skill. So the 4 skills that we teach at secondary school, listening, speaking, writing, and listening, speaking, writing, and also which other process can we talk about? Okay, those basically 3 processes. To say a learner cannot speak if they have not listened, and a learner cannot write if they have not read. So these 4 skills, they go hand in hand. They are in 2 sets. Listening and speaking is one. Writing and reading is also another. So a learner who has not read may not write, and a learner who cannot write, it's obvious that they may not read. A learner who cannot speak or who has not listened, they cannot speak. And obviously a learner who cannot speak, it is obvious that they have done very little to listening. So listening, speaking, reading, and writing are important skills that must be practiced for learners to come to the mystery of the language. Number 7, feedback. Provide feedback. As a teacher, give feedback to learners when they write their compositions. Mark them and show them their mistakes, and remind them how they can improve their pieces of work. Number 8, encourage revision. Emphasize the importance of revision in the writing process. Teach learners or pupils how to self-edit and revise their own work, as well as give this work to others, their fellow learners, so that they help them in editing, and also in pointing out a few mistakes that they may have made. That will help them to learn how to write. Number 9, incorporate technology. Okay, integrate technology tools, such as in tool teaching. We can talk about softwares, online writing platforms, grammar, checking tools, chat GPT, and many more other, AI or artificial intelligence softwares that have come that can help them, just in the process of learning how to write. It's so important. Number 10, cultivate a writing community. Foster positive and collaborating, writing environment in your classroom. Encourage, pupils to share their writing with each other. Okay? Participate in peer review activities. In other words, we are saying, as you are teaching as a teacher, sometimes, don't rush into marking the composition of learners. Give them to write a composition, and also ask the friends, to grade them, mark their work. When they finish, also as a teacher, you can get those books and begin to revise and see whether the learners, what they were doing was correct, and help, learners to know their shortfalls. The last guideline that I may give, number 11, is stay flexible and adapt. Be prepared to adapt your teaching strategies based on the needs and the progress of your pupils. Every class is different, so it is important to remain flexible and responsive to their individual learning styles and abilities. Don't force learners, the way you want them to learn. Sometimes as a teacher, learn from learners on how they learn well. They'll tell you, the learners themselves. When you are too open to them, and when you have a lot of interest in them, you'll begin to understand what they need. And of course, accept the suggestions that they give to you as a teacher. Now remember, teaching composition is not just about, imparting knowledge, but also about nurturing creativity, critical thinking, and effective communication skills in your pupils. You must know this fact, that as you are teaching composition, the greatest tool ever that learners must learn is creativity, which in the outside world they say lies or cheating. In English language, learners do not cheat. Instead, they become creative. For example, if a child was asked to say, write a story about a day that we are very sad, a foolish child may fail to write a story because they will say, I've never been that sad in my life. But ask the child to say, let them be creative. Create a story, a scenario, where they will show the moment that they were very sad or the moment that they were very happy. So creativity is key in the writing of composition. Encourage learners that let them write what comes in their mind based on how they have understood the question. That will give them the idea and the enthusiasm to write more about these things. I thought maybe we should talk about these things, and even as we delve into other aspects next time in part 2, part 3, and part 4 of composition writing. Thank you so much.